Tim couldn't make it tonight. He has to work. So tonight we're tying the Purple Haze and Trina's Noble Chernobyl. So it's a Chernobyl with a little twist to it. We're going to start it off with purple thread. We're doing the Purple Haze. And we got roughly a size 12 hook. I'd like to thank Bow River Brewing, for giving us this nice establishment to work with. This is awesome. It's a little more comfortable, I think. We've got great food here, good beer, great beer. And flyfishingbowriver.com is a big thank you to them. They're the ones providing all this, and you should have a good time. So everyone's got your size 12 hook in, everyone's got their purple thread ready. So we're just going to get started by just getting the thread base on there. Now you don't want to bring it back too far, so when the thread hangs down, it should line up roughly where the barb of the hook is. Anywhere past that, you're just going to make a mess of your tail when you tie your tail in. First material is we're using a moose hair as our tail fiber. And go ahead and get that stacked if you have a stacker. If not, well, you're just going to have to try to eyeball it and line up all the tips.
Jared, all of it?
Yeah, we're going to use all of that. We just have enough material to make the one fly for the Purple Haze. If you are at home, you don't have moose hair, I mean, there's a lot of different tail materials you can use. Deer, elk, lots of stuff, yeah. Squirrel tail. But, so we get started by roughly making the tail the length of the shank of the hook. So I start out measuring it like so. All right, and then you switch your grip, and that's where you're going to get started. You start off with a loose wrap just to kind of get it in place. You can kind of check it, get a couple more binding wraps in there just to get it anchored. Now, we're wanting to build the body a little bit since we're doing a thread body instead of a dubbing body. So I'm actually going to anchor in this tail all the way up to maybe the last quarter of the fly. So if you see here, we've got, well, it's hard to say how much that is, but let's say 3/4 of the way up the shank. Now we've built up a bit of a body, and we're just going to clean that up. Get enough purple on there to cover up all that black. Everyone's got a beer, everyone's doing good.
We're trying to keep it on top, right?
Yeah, if it doesn't happen to stay on top, I wouldn't be too concerned about it because we're going to build some more thread in there. We want to get a bit of a tapered body. Now I'm bringing the thread right up to about that last quarter, 3/4 up. We're going to tie in the post, and then we'll continue working on the taper and everything. Okay, so in our kits we have poly wing material. Now, poly wing material is very nice and easy to work with, and it's cheap, but you can also use calf body hair, calf tail hair, lots of different materials to make the post for the wing. You can also mix in your different colors. Any of us that our eyes are a little bit older and they can't quite see that white wing by all means, substitute in some bright orange. Trying to get this thing to focus. There we go. So,
Is it okay if I don't have a beard? Is that fine?
if you don't have a beard, you're still welcome here. Don't worry about it.
But you have to shave your head.
Now, I'm going to make this post a little bit thicker than normal just so it's a little bit easier to work with. So I'm going to cut one of these sections into 3. And I'm going to take 2 of them, 2 of those, and that's what I'm going to use to make my post. In your kit, it comes with orange, but you can use white. Doesn't matter. The kit, I guess the kit has orange, so let's use orange. We'll save the white for the Chernobyl. So your orange piece, I think it's all the same length, so I cut the orange in half. So right around that 3/4 mark where we left our thread, that's where we're going to attach our post. So we're just going to attach this right in the middle. Get 1 or 2 thread wraps in there just to get it in place. Tighten it up. 3 or 4 thread wraps should be enough to hold it in place as long as you got some good tension on there. Now, I'm just going to wrap the thread around the base of this post to help stand it up. And I'm going to work my way up just a little bit. Make sure it's standing up. Well, we wrap the thread around it horizontally. So around this way. And that gets it to stand up and makes it nice and strong. If anyone has any questions, there's a lot of experienced tires here, so just ask around. The people around you can give you quite a bit of assistance.
That's plenty.
You know how I do it?
And the, that much of thread.
So,
Because that you can trim. There's no sense being short on that.
so flyfishingbowriver.com.
Two loose wraps.
My group of friends here, they're putting this on, and it's ooh, I'm dying here. Getting a little nervous tonight.
And then take your scissors. Cut it. You want to cut it, you fix the tie. Get it tied around horizontally.
Hold it up
Tail out of there.
and just gradually work your way up a little bit. I've got quite a bit of thread on there now, so I'm going to take this opportunity while you guys are doing that. I'm just going to build up a little bit of a taper in the body. How's everybody doing? So in your kit, you've got 1 hackle feather. This is a grizzly hackle. This is enough feather to do both flies. So we don't cut this until we're finished wrapping it, because we're going to need this for the Chernobyl as well. So now that I've got my little bit of taper in the threaded body there, I'm ready to attach the hackle. I'm going to take the butt end of the feather and I'm going to strip off some of the fibers, just leaving a little bit of the base of the feather exposed there. Okay, so that's what we're actually going to be anchoring it to, not a whole bunch of the fibers. So one of the tricks is I'm going to fold the wing back a little bit. I guess I should bring the thread up to in front of the post first. Now I'm going to attach the feather in front of the post. But here's the trick. We're going to wrap the thread around the post, bringing the feather up the post. So I'm attaching the feather, the hackle, to the post vertically. Now this is such a simple fly using a thread body. We're pretty much one more step and we're done. So. So I'm just going to work my hackle, wrapping it around the post, working my way down to the shank. Now I'm going to fold this up a little bit, bring it under, and down in front of the hook. That way I can anchor it in nicely without messing up the hackle. Now I'm anchoring that in on a little bit of a 45-degree angle or so. And that's it. 3 or 4 wraps should do it to anchor that in place.
How do you anchor it in?
I'm anchoring it in on a roughly, 45-degree angle. Just bringing it underneath the hackles that are sticking out forward. See how I was doing that? Now, if you are comfortable with how tight it is anchored in, there's 2 ways you can do this. You can literally just snap that feather back and break it off nice and clean, or you can get in there carefully with your scissors and cut it off. If you're not comfortable with getting in there, maybe your scissors aren't that sharp at the tip, I highly recommend just pulling it back. Just give it a quick snap back and it breaks it off nice and flush. It leaves you a little bit of hackles sticking straight out. You can trim those off. Now the ultimate for some of the rookies is the whip finish. You guys got it? You can use a tool or you can do it with your fingers. Once you're done your whip finish, hold up your post. Now, if you imagine how long your hackles are, that's how long you want your post roughly to get it all nice and proportionate. And just one cut and you're done. I would fish this pretty much anywhere where there's any trout. You're having a hard time getting those cutties to come up to something. They're rejecting you on all your standards. Just throw on a purple haze. It should work just fine. Little dab of head cement, and she's all done. But by all means, this pattern, this format is very versatile. You can mix your colors quite a bit. Do dubbing bodies, different color posts, different color hackles. And if this was the only style of dry fly you tied, you'll be fine. You can do a lot of different varieties in this. How's everyone doing? So if anyone's having a hard time with some of the basic techniques, I just wanted to let you guys know that normally I'm over here helping you guys out one-on-one, but you can always get a hold of me or message me on Mountain Man Flies on Instagram. I am completely down to help you guys one-on-one with any techniques necessary. And if you guys are looking for a nice, very good guide service, flyfishingbowriver.com has quite a few reputable guides. I don't recommend Dana, though. No, Dana's too busy.
So now,
So the next fly we're doing, if everyone's ready. I don't know.
Guys are very, you know, they don't want to hold hands or all that kind of stuff, but just be in a position so that if he needs to lean on you, he can do it. It's always good practice when the guys sit up. Keep braced, guys, right? Yeah. Stay in the braces, stay square on the boat. And then get them pumped for this next run. So get us pumped.
Yeah, so when I first came in, the fishing was like, I thought it was all about that. No, that's not the case, which is great, right? That's probably the biggest takeaway I got was the people experience.
Okay, so we're all done with the purple haze. Pretty simple fly. Get enough experience. You're doing those in a minute or so. Next up is our Chernobyl. So in your kit, you got a bigger hook. And if you want, you can switch to just a black thread, a tan thread, whatever you got. We don't need the purple thread anymore. Got a couple stragglers still. So, I don't know what he said.
yeah, because you only have it. There you go. All right. Now take your thread.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So next up is the Chernobyl, and we actually have a pre-tied, ready, done fly in the kit for you. This is going to be handy because even if you mess up, you've got one ready to go, ready to fish. Also, you can use it as a sample for all your proportions and lengths.
What I like to do instead of cutting is I open my scissors and I bring it in until they can feel. Just in between. You just come in here. It's pushing against it. I don't want to do it because I can't see. But rather than slip it.
So for this one, I want to get a really good thread base down because foam, you don't really want to put a lot of pressure on that foam because the thread will actually cut right through it. So we want a nice thread base down there so that we got a good grip so it doesn't spin everywhere. And a little bit of crazy glue doesn't hurt either. I'm going to throw a little Zap-A-Gap on there. Now with Zap-A-Gap on here, you don't want much, just a tiny little bit.
And then I throw a half pitch in, just so that it's secure, and then you What color thread did you say we were using on this?
This one you can use pretty much anything. If you want a highlighted color, you could stick to the purple if you want to, but if you want to switch it up, we can go with tan, or I'm using a rusty orange.
Not rusty orange.
Yeah,
The rusty.
the rusty orange, yes. No.
You're getting a large
So you've got some foam in this kit. We're going to start off with the lighter color. Now, in this kit, we got tan, black, and a little piece of yellow. The yellow, obviously, with it's just a highlight for some increased visibility. By all means, when you're tying later on, you can mix and match all these colors as well. So I'm going to take the foam, the light colored foam, and we're going to cut a nice taper to it. Right. Now, the tail sticking off the back, not a crucial length. Roughly 1/4 of an inch. Now the foam, when you go to tighten up the thread, it's going to want to roll around the fly on you. So I like to start it kind of facing me a little bit. Get a loose wrap on there, cinch it down, and rotate it into place as you're tightening it. And that'll get it, you can position it. That will get it pretty anchored. You can cut it whichever way you like. You can put a fork in it, you can do a taper, you can round it off.
Does it matter if your foam's not like snap straight up?
No. Once you're binding it in and creating all your sections, it's not going to be noticeable. No. So, good point. Your foam does not have to be cut perfect. You don't have to get out a measuring tool and make it exactly the right width. As long as it's going to get some nice volume and be nice and buoyant, we're good. So we started off with our light color foam. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the dark color foam. This one's black. I don't know if we've all got the same color or not. Sometimes it could be just a dark chocolate. We're going to line that up with that bottom piece. Now, one of the reasons why I like to tie in the foam separately is we can get it anchored a lot better. So I'm tying it in the same spot. I'm sorry, Eric?
Taper that one. Here's your bug. Taper that one as well.
Yeah, I tapered it the same way that I did the light color.
Excellent.
I super glued the base thread, the base coat, so that way it's anchored onto the hook really well. And if you want to, you can dab a little bit of crazy glue as you go to really build it up, and make it strong. But it's not necessary once you get that thread base anchored really well. So one of the ways to get a cleaner Chernobyl is actually not advancing the thread over top of your foam. We're actually going to peel the foam back, advance the thread forward to where we want to do our next segmentation, and then repeat that process again. Now we're working on our next section, next segment. So again, the light colored foam anchored first, then the dark. 3 or 4 wraps with the right tension should make it just fine. Next up, we got some deer hair. Don't need a lot of deer hair. If you're just using a nice, say a 6/0 uni thread.
Just take a pause here for a second.
Sure. Yeah. We're gonna hold off for a little bit. Let a couple people catch up.
We're going for about 3 segments.
We can do 4, 5. It's always depending on, just want to make it kind of even. Depending on what hook length you have too, right? Yeah. Take this opportunity to enjoy some nice beer.
I think mine's just a fat grass all.
How's everyone doing? Some people are caught up now. So the foam's a little long. I'm going to trim off a little bit just to get some of it out of the way. You don't want it right at the end of the hook. You want it to overhang about 1/4 of an inch. I'm just going to get rid of that. So our next step is going to be the deer hair. Now we don't need a lot. They give you quite a bit in this little kit. We don't need very much. It's good quality deer hair too, so. So I'm going to hold it at the tip and I'm going to get rid of all the shorter hairs. We don't need those. That'll make it a lot easier to stack. One of the tips I have for stacking hair is rotate it as you're pushing it in and it helps get them all in there. This is an oldie. Now commence tapping. So the length of this deer hair, we want pretty close to where the edge of the foam is. Want the tips of the deer hair about the same as the foam. So I'm just going to switch my grip, get a loose wrapping thread on, loose gathering wrap on there, and I'm gently going to anchor it. Now, my biggest tip here right now is don't let go of all this here. Just keep holding on to that. Anchor it into place. Now, while you're holding that, now you can get your scissors and trim off all your excess deer hair while it's all nice and separated. And another trick is you don't need to cut this deer hair that short. We're going to be covering up with our high vis foam, so you don't have to spend forever cutting all that little bit of deer hair out. So you can cut tapers in your high vis foam if you want, or you can leave it square. Yeah, you can do either or. Legs go on the side, so. We can attach the legs now, or we can attach the foam now. It's not crucial. I'm just going to put that foam, I'm going to anchor it right in the middle. You want roughly about 1/2 inch of length of that high vis foam. So here's where you could have a lot of fun. You've got various types of rubber legs, segmented, barred, whatever you want to call it. Lots of different colors. In our kit, we've got white. White works quite well. So one of the tricks for the rubber legs is to wrap it around the thread, figure out your halfway point. Now you can move it around and figure out exactly where you want it and take your time. So I got it right in on the side. Now you can maneuver this foam up and down as you need. Stretch it out. Again, you only need 3 or 4 wraps just to hold that in place. And we're going to put a rubber leg on each side. Now we're going to fold it all back. Bring your thread forward. We're going to establish our next segmentation. How's everyone doing?
Yeah. Should put her on speaker. Yeah.
It's kind of rapid. Just on the side. I just don't. Just wanted to travel.
You got lots of rubber legs in your kit. If you want to have them longer, that's by all means, that's fine, because if they're longer, you can always use a clip or something to hold them back out of the way.
Rubber legs. Rubber legs are separate.
I'm a big fan of these rounded rubber legs.
Start with the full separate the two. Bring them.
We got these, and these will come all connected, so it takes a little while to get them apart. Peel it apart like cheese string. So I did, we weren't anchoring anything to this last section, this last segmentation. Now is where we're going to have some tricky. We are going to put a parachute in this last section here. Now, we don't want to bring this all the way forward for our last segmentation. We want to leave a little bit of room so we can still tie off the feather and do a whip finish underneath. So here's where the saying don't rush the head comes in, right? You want a little bit of a gap right here. So anchored the light colored foam, the cream colored foam, then the dark foam. Now the same as we did for the purple haze, we're just going to create a post out of the poly material. So we need 2 sections, roughly 3 inches long. It'll make it easier to fold it back and tie in our legs. So I'm going to anchor that right in the middle. Three or 4 wraps. Now we're going to start working on this as a post. So the same as what we did for the purple haze, we're going to wrap that thread horizontally around. Okay. Now we're going to save all the trimming to the end so that way it's easier to manage. How's everyone doing?
Better. Now hold on to your
This takes way too long.
Yeah.
Polarized is the way to go.
Yeah.
not to break your thread.
Now, my friend Ross here just brought up one of the tricks. If you're having a hard time wrapping your hackle around this post, you can use a little bit of UV set resin in there just to stiffen it up, but a very, very, very tiny amount. And that'll give it a little more rigidity, so when you're wrapping the hackle around it, it'll be easier to maintain some tension on the hackle.
Now you can take your
So we should still have lots of this grizzly hackle left. We've got plenty enough to do this. So again, I stripped some of the hackle off, giving myself a nice place to anchor that into place. So I can get it to focus. There we go. So now that I've anchored that, I'm going to wrap the hackle up the post using the thread. Going to anchor it up the post there. Now we can tie in our rubber legs, because we're going to have a hard time tying in our rubber legs after we wrap that hackle. There we go. Now we're almost done. Well, at least some of us are almost done. Yeah, you're doing good, Eric.
Don't drop in your beer.
Yeah.
No setting it on fire either.
Those days are over. It's only while you're there.
So, I think everyone's caught up, or most people are caught up. I'm going to start wrapping this hackle down the post. This is where it gets a little tricky. Feel free to move the hackle up and down to get around obstacles as you're bringing it down the post. Okay. Now, at the end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel back this dark foam with the hackle sticking away from me. I'm peeling back the dark foam and I'm bringing that hackle in underneath that dark foam. This is where I'm going to anchor the hackle because I can get it a little more tension on the thread.
Not too hard, but yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Now just trim these up. Bring those up. Yep.
Now fold all the foam back and tie in.
Now, you've advanced a little too far, so we're going to have a hard time getting the rest of that on.
I'm just going to trim off this hackle.
Do about it at this point. It's all, that's the problem. It's all about the proportions.
Whip finish, and we are set for trimming.
Yeah, so let's see what we have left here. You know what? Yeah. You can come forward.
So I'm going to rotate this so you can see I'm just going to cut off the tips of these corners on this foam. Actually, I'm going to trim the length a little bit.
Should have had 3 segments on there.
Be careful not to cut your rubber legs off.
You're not going to be able to fit that. but you've got one there, right? So I'll just show you here. So
Try to get it somewhat even. There we go. So I trim the foam first. Now we're going to trim the poly. It's going to be about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/2 inch for the poly, for the length. Now one of the tricks for cutting these rubber legs all the same length is I'll gather up all these rubber legs and I'll bring them all down and cut them all at once. Legs, you want them about 1 inch long, give or take. And we are done, except for a little head cement. Now I'm flipping the fly over to do the head cement. We're just going to put a little dab at each section.
find them on sale. When we fish on Mountain in July 4th, price plus well, I am horribly offended.
I'm just using a simple lacquer head cement so it can really absorb deep into the fly, into all those threads. But there you go. You're finished. Trina's Noble Chernobyl. Now, believe it or not, this is only the 3rd one I've ever tied. So, thanks.
All I can say is Trina's not a nice lady.
Yeah, what's the big idea of putting an evil parachute in the middle of a Chernobyl?
That's the big question.
Yeah. I mean, sure, it looks nice. Yeah.
No, because you've got just
Yeah. But for us old guys and our old eyes, I highly recommend the orange post material for sure. I dyed one earlier. Here's a different color with the legs and the... So, it's a great grasshopper pattern, stonefly pattern, hopper dropper, whatever you want to use it for. I'll even use these at night for the browns. You can't even see the fly, but the browns sure see them. Okay, I'd like to thank again flyfishingbowriver.com. This has been fun. Are we tying another fly? I'm Jared Brown, also known as Mountain Man Flies on Instagram. Again, if anyone needs any further instruction on other techniques or these techniques, feel free to hit me up. I'd like to thank Bow River Brewing for great beer, great food, and a great place to work. Great place to come and hang out. And if anyone's looking for a really good float trip on the bow, make sure you hit up flyfishingbowriver.com. I'm still sure they still have a couple bookings left. I might not be here next Thursday, but we'll see. But we will be back next Thursday for another Thursday Night Live.